And we are live. Welcome to the Nilvah Nexus. Thanks for tuning in. Glad to have you here. James, the idolsmasher at gmail.com is my email address if you'd like to get in touch with me. And join us on the Nilvah Nexus Facebook and Google Plus groups, I guess. They're not pages, they're groups. And if you'd like to join in the conversation, that's where you get the links to join. We are in, well, you know, we've got partial study, we've got Haftorah, we've got a lot of things to talk about, but tonight I kind of wanted to look at Samson. There's a feature film out in the theaters right now. I haven't seen it. I have a date. God willing, the wife lets me do it. So far, I've been a good boy, so it just might happen. I'm going to go see it Sunday, so at a matinee. So I look forward to it. You never know how Hollywood's going to do with these films. But you know, I think they try, and I'm looking forward to it. So before we go see it, if you have seen it, great. If you haven't seen it, spoilers. And it's not too many, it's just a few pages of spoilers. The biblical story of Samson can be found in Judges chapters 13. We're going to go through 17, I believe, all the way through. I never personally taken an effort to make a study of Samson as much as I have heard him coming in passing. Rabbi Katz did a great series at Soul Mazel Premium on the Samson series he has up there. It's a really good series. So I'm going to read it. That's what we're going to do right now. I'm going to just read it. I have here, because it's the easiest to read. I have according to Tanakh back there, but honestly, that read teaches you how to pronounce just about everything Hebrew, which is quite a lot. And I would spend more time properly trying to pronounce names and whatnot. So for ease of getting through the reading, I'm going to read through my old, this is the first one I ever bought. We are in the Mirror Universe now. Hopefully we don't run into Lorca. We're in the Mirror Universe, so you can't read it backwards, but it's the JPS Tanakh. Once again, Judges 13. We're going to read through it, and then we'll chat. The Israelites again did what was offensive to the Lord, and the Lord delivered them into the hands of the Philistines for 40 years. There was a certain man from Zorah, the stock of Dan, whose name was Manoah. His wife was barren and had borne no children. An angel of the Lord appeared to the woman and said to her, "You are barren and have borne no children, but you shall conceive and bear a son. Now be careful not to drink wine or other intoxicant or eat anything unclean. For you are going to conceive and bear a son. Let no razor touch his head, for the boy is to be a Nazirite to God from the womb on. He shall be the first to deliver Israel from the Philistines." If you recognize something similar, okay. The woman went and told her husband, "A man of God came to me. He looked like an angel of God, very frightening. I did not ask him where he was from, nor did he tell me his name. He said to me, 'You are going to conceive and bear a son. Drink no wine or other intoxicant, and eat nothing unclean, for the boy is to be a Nazirite to God from the womb to the day of death.' Manoah pleaded with the Lord. 'O Lord,' he said, 'please let the man of God that you sent come to us again, and let him instruct us how to act with the child that is to be born.' God heeded Manoah's plea, and the angel of God came to the woman again. She was sitting in the field with her husband Manoah. No, sitting in the field, and her husband Manoah was not with her. The woman ran in haste to tell her husband. She said to him, 'The man who came to me before has just appeared to me.' Manoah promptly followed his wife. He came to the man and asked him, 'Are you the man who spoke to my wife?' 'Yes,' he answered. Then Manoah said, 'May your words soon come true. What rules shall be observed for the boy?' The angel of the Lord said to Manoah, 'The woman must abstain from all things against which I warned her. She must not eat anything that comes Let's try that again. So I struggle to turn the page back. She must not eat anything that comes from the grapevine, or drink wine or other intoxicant, or eat anything unclean. She must observe all I have commanded her. Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, let us detain you and prepare a kid for you. But the angel of the Lord said to Manoah, if you detain me, I shall not eat your food, and if you present a burnt offering to the Lord. Let's see, let me try that again. If you detain me, I shall not eat your food, and if you present a burnt offering, offer it to the Lord. For Manoah did not know that he was an angel of the Lord. So Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, what is your name? We should like to honor you when your words come true. The angel said to him, you must not ask for my name. It is unknowable. Shalom, John. We're reading in Samson. We're in Judges chapter 13, and I'm just about to get into verse 19. We're going to read the 3 chapters dealing with our superhero of the week. Manoah took the kid, Manoah took the kid and the meal offering and offered them up on the rock to the Lord. And a marvelous thing happened. While Manoah and his wife looked on, as the flames leaped from the altar toward the sky, an angel of the Lord ascended in the flames of the altar. While Manoah and his wife looked on, and they flung themselves to their faces to the ground. The angel of the Lord never appeared again to Manoah and his wife. Manoah then realized that it had been an angel of the Lord, and Manoah said to his wife, we shall surely die, for we have seen a divine being. But his wife said to him, had the Lord merit to take our lives, he would not have accepted a burnt offering and meal offering from us, nor let us see all these things, and he would not have made such an announcement to us. The woman bore a son, and she named him Samson. The boy grew up, and the Lord blessed him. The Spirit of the Lord first moved him in the encampment of Dan, between Zorah and Eshtaol. That's chapter 13. I'll be right back.
Very nice. How's everything? How's everyone's lives going? Testing, 1, 2, testing. Can anyone hear me? Testing.
Say that again, John.
Am I coming through? People hear me?
I can hear you. A little soft.
Okay. What about now?
Yeah, not bad.
I don't right next to the mic.
That's good. Okay.
Where is everyone in an empty room? Come on.
All right, chapter 14. Huh?
Go ahead.
Yeah, chapter 14. Once Samson went down to Timnah, and while in Timnah, he noticed a girl among the Philistine women. On his return, he told his father and mother, I noticed one of the Philistine women in Timnah. Please get her for me as a wife. His mother and son said to him, Is there no place among the daughters of your own kinsmen and among all our people that you must go and take a wife from the uncircumcised Philistine? Samson answered his father, Get me that one, for she is the one that pleases me. His father and mother did not realize that this was the Lord's doing. He was seeking a pretext against the Philistines, for the Philistines were ruling over Israel at the time. So Samson and his father and his mother went down to Timnah. When he came to the vineyards of Timnah, for the first time, a full-grown lion came roaring at him. The Spirit of the Lord gripped him, and he tore him asunder with his bare hands, as one might tear a kid asunder. But he did not tell his father and mother what he had done. Returning the following year to marry her, he turned aside to look at the remains of the lion, and in the lion's skeleton he found bees and honey. He scooped it into his palms and ate it, and he went along. When he rejoined his father and mother, he gave them some, and they ate it, but he did not tell them that he had scooped the honey out of a lion's skeleton. So his father came down to the wagon, and Samson made a feast there, as young men used to do. When they saw him, they designated 30 companions to be with him. Then Samson said to them, "Let me propound a riddle for you. If you can give me the right answer during the 7 days of the feast, I shall give you 30 linen tunics and 30 sets of clothing. But if you are not able to tell it to me, you must give me 30 linen tunics and 30 sets of clothing." And they said to him, "Ask your riddle, and we will listen." So he said to them, "Out of the eater came something to eat. Out of the strong came something sweet." For 3 days they could not answer the riddle. On the 7th day they said to Samson's wife, "Coax your husband to provide us with the answer to the riddle, else we shall put you and your father's household to the fire. Have you invited us here in order to impoverish us?" Then Samson's wife harassed him with tears, and she said, "You really hate me. You don't love me." I got a wife that says the same thing sometimes. "You asked my countrymen a riddle, and you didn't tell me, and you didn't tell me the answer." He replied, "I haven't even told my father and mother. Shall I tell you?" During the rest of the 7 days of the feast, she continued to harass him with her tears, and on the 7th day he told her, because she nagged him so. And she explained the riddle to her countrymen. And on the 7th day, before the sun set, the townsmen said to him, "What is sweeter than honey? What is stronger than a lion?" He responded, "Have you not plowed with my heifer? Would you not have guessed my riddle?" The Spirit of the Lord gripped him. He went down to Eshkelon and killed 30 of its men. He stripped them and gave them sets of clothing to those who had answered the riddle, and left in a rage for his father's house. Samson's wife then married one of those who had been missing his wedding companions. Let's try that again. Samson's wife then married one of those who had been his wedding companions. Chapter 15. Sometime later, in the season of the wheat harvest, Samson came to visit his wife, bringing a kid as a gift. He said, "Let me go into the chamber to my wife," but her father would not let him go in. "I was sure," said her father, "that you had taken a dislike to her, so I gave her to your young wedding companion. But a younger sister is more beautiful than she. Let her become your wife." To them. Samson went and caught 300 foxes. He took torches, and turning the fox's tail to tail, he placed a torch between each pair of tails. He lit the torches and turned the foxes loose among the standing grain of the Philistines, setting fire to stacked grain, standing grain, vineyards, and olive trees. The Philistines asked, "Who did this?" And they were told, "It was Samson, the son-in-law of the Timnite, who took Samson's wife and gave her to his wedding companion." Thereupon the Philistines came up and put her and her father to the fire. Samson said to them, "If that is how you act, I will not rest until I have taken revenge on you." He gave them a sound and thorough thrashing. Then he went down and stayed in the cave of the rock of Etam. The Philistines came up, pitched camp in Judah, and spread out over Lehi. The men of Judah asked, "Why have you come up against us?" They answered, "We have come to take Samson prisoner, and to do him as he did with us." Thereupon 3,000 men of Judah went down to the cave of the rock of Etam, and they said to Samson, You knew that the Philistines rule over us. Why have you done this to us?" He replied, "As they did to me, so I did to them. They have come down," he told them, "to take you prisoner and to hand you over to the Philistines. But swear to me," said Samson to them, that you yourselves will not attack me." "We won't," they replied. "We will only take you prisoner and hand you over to them. We will not slay you." So they bound him with new ropes and brought him up from the rock. When he reached Lehi, the Philistines came shouting to meet him. Thereupon the Spirit of the Lord melted off. He came upon a fresh jawbone of an ass and picked it up, and with it he killed 1,000 men. See, he's kind of a superhero. Then Samson said, "With the jaw of an ass, mass upon mass, with the jaw of an ass, I have slain 1,000 men." As he finished speaking, he threw the jawbone away. Hence that place was called Ramath Lehi, the jawbone heights. He was very thirsty, and he called out to the Lord, "You yourself have granted this victory through your servant, and must I now die of thirst and fallen into the hands of the uncircumcised?" So God split open the hollow, which is the Lehi, and the water gushed out of it. He drank, regained his strength, and revived. That is why it is called to this day En Hakor of Lehi. Understood as the spring of the collar. He led Israel in the days of the Philistines for 20 years. All right. Once Samson went to Gaza. Oh, man. See, you already know, right? Once Samson went to Gaza. There he met a whore and slept with her. The Gazites learned that Samson had come there, so they gathered and lay in ambush for him in the town gate the whole night. And all night long they kept whispering to each other, "When daylight comes, we'll kill him." But Samson lay in bed only until midnight. At midnight he got up, grasped the doors of the town gate together with the 2 gate posts, pulled them out along with the bar. He placed them on his shoulders and carried them off to the top of the hill that is near Hebron. After that, he fell in love with a woman in the Wadi Sorek named Delilah. The lords of the Philistines went up to her and said, "Coax him and find out what makes him strong and how we can overpower him. Tie him up, make him helpless, and we'll each give you 1,100 shekels of silver." So Delilah said to Samson, "Tell me, what makes you so strong? And how could you be tied up and made helpless?" Samson replied, If I were to be tied with 7 fresh tendons that had not been dried, I should become as weak as an ordinary man." So the lords of the Philistines brought up to her 7 fresh tendons that had not been dried. She bound him with them while an ambush was waiting in her room. Then she called out to him, Samson, the Philistines are upon you. Where he pulled the tendons apart, as a strand of tow becomes apart at the touch of fire. So the secret of his strength remained unknown. Secret of his strength. Then Delilah said to Samson, you deceived me. You lied to me. Now tell me, how do you keep... Now tell me now how you could be tied up. He said, if I were to be bound with new ropes that had never been used, I should become as weak as an ordinary man. So Delilah took new ropes and bound him with them while an ambush was waiting in a room. And she cried, Samson, the Philistines are upon you. But he tore them off his arms like a thread. Then Delilah said to Samson, you have been deceiving me all along. You have been lying to me. Tell me, how could you be tied up? He answered her, if you weave 7 locks of my head into the web. And she pinned it with a peg and cried to him, Samson, the Philistines are upon you. Let's see. Tell me, okay. He answered her, if you weave 7 locks of my head into the web. And she pinned him with a peg and cried to him, Samson, the Philistines are upon you. Awaking from his sleep, he pulled out the peg of the loom and the web. Then she said to him, how can you say you love me when you don't confide in me? This makes 3 times that you have deceived me and haven't told me what makes you so strong. Finally, after she nagged him and pressed him constantly, he was worried to death, and he confided everything to her. He said to her, no razor has ever touched my head, for I have been a Nazirite to God since I was in my mother's womb. If my hair were cut, my strength would leave me, and I shall become as weak as an ordinary man. Sensing that he had confided everything to her, Delilah sent for the lords of the Philistines with the message, come up once more, for he has confided everything to me. And the lords of the Philistines came and brought the money with them. She lulled him to sleep with her on her lap. Then she called in a man, and she had him cut off 7 locks of his head. Thus she weakened him and made him helpless. His strength slipped away from him. She cried, Samson, the Philistines are upon you. And he woke from his sleep, thinking he would break loose and shake himself free, as he had in other times, for he did not know that the Lord had departed from him. The Philistines seized him, gouged out his eyes. They brought him down to Gaza and shackled him in bronze fetters, and he became a mill slave in the prison. After his hair was cut off, it began to grow back. Now the lords of the Philistines gathered to offer a great sacrifice to their god Dagon, and to make merry. They chanted, O God has delivered into our hand. Our God has delivered into our hands our enemy Samson. When the people saw him, they sang praises to their God, chanting, our God has delivered into our hands the enemy who devastated our land and who slew many of us. And their spirits rose. They said, call Samson here and let him dance for us. Samson was fetched from the prison, and he danced for them. Then they put him between the pillars, and Samson said to the boy who was leading him by the hand, let go of me and let me feel the pillars of the temple that the temple rests upon, that I may lean on them. Now the temple was full of men and women. All the lords of the Philistines were watching Samson dance. Let's try that again. All the lords of the Philistines were there, and there were 3,000 men and women on the roof watching Samson dance. Then Samson called to the Lord, O Lord, please remember me and give me strength just this once, O God, to take revenge of the Philistines, if only for one of my 2 eyes. He embraced the two middle pillars that the temple rested upon, one with right arm and the other with his left, and leaned against them. Samson cried, "Let me die with the Philistines," and he pulled with all his might. The temple came crashing down on the lords and on all the people in it. Those who were slain by him as he died outnumbered those who had been slain by him when he lived. His brothers and all his father's household came down and carried him up and buried him in the tomb of his father Manoah, between Zorah and Eshtaol. He had led Israel for 20 years. And thus ends the story of Samson.
Very good, very good.
Anything different to this time?
Come again, Ross.
Is there anything that different than this?
He's
I've never
asking if there was anything different.
This is the first time I'd read it all the way through. What struck me about the story is why he would. Did he know that Delilah was a two-faced snot? Why would he give her false limitations? Why egg her on? Was it just to shut her up? I mean, we only get the time he wanted to shut her up on the third time. But why the other two? Why would he? Wouldn't he know? That's my question.
Yeah, it seems like asking the same question over and over. You'd figure he'd know she's up to something. I mean, I would figure it out. Why, you keep coming at me asking me the same question. How can you be tied up? How can you be tied up?
Mm-hmm.
So at some point, I think
I don't know how. Oh, James.
Echo?
Yeah, it's bad today. But I don't know what the case may be. I don't have any answers, but the only answer I have is a good old l'chaim, James. How about you do one for the old times? What do you say?
I just happen to have a wee bit of bourbon I've been saving for a while. This is the last of the 7-year Kentucky bourbon. I think that they don't make it anymore, but I wondered if you were going to show up, so I saved it. I'll have a cap full. I don't have a whiskey glass on me.
Good old Irish. The l'chaim.
L'chaim.
What are we going to say it in honor of? Let's say it in honor of sacrificing our livelihood for Hashem, no matter what. Amen. L'chaim.
Now, Samson was a judge, right?
yes.
So prior to kings, judges ruled. Is that what I'm getting here?
That's also a few different places it said, and there was no king in Israel. Every man did what was right in his eyes. And Samson was just one of several judges before Saul became the first king.
I like Samson because he's a warrior. He took the jawbone of an ass. I like that. I like that. I don't, you know, a holy warrior. There's nothing cooler to me than a holy warrior. That's from my childhood. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, just saying. I don't know if you caught it or not as you were going through. The Philistines went and encamped in Judah, spreading out at Lehi. Oh my goodness.
Right.
Okay, well, Lehi. Oh. Okay, it starts to go through. But anyway, we've come up to arrest Samson to do to him as he did to us. 3,000 men of Judah went down to the cleft of the rock of Etam, and they said to Samson, "Do you not know that the Philistines rule over us? What is it that you've done to us?" So Samson is saying, "Swear to me that you yourself will not harm me." I find it kind of curious. Well, there was 3,000 here, men of Judah, but there was only 1,000 Philistines. But why is Samson concerned that the men of Judah would do him harm?
That's a good question. He was can we call him a Danite? Was there ever something between Judah and Dan?
Well, it says early on that he was from the family of the Danites. Dan means judge. So he lived among the Danites, which were judges. And the tribe of Dan was very notorious for idolatry.
So he's Jewish. We've got that much.
No.
He's not?
No, he's from the family of the Danite. He's a Danite family. Meaning he's probably
Why would you tell his mother not to eat anything contaminated? Had she been in the habit of eating contaminated food?
I see. Okay.
And
but if
I'm sorry, had she been in the habit of drinking wine and eating contaminated food, which is why she was told not to do that. Now, you don't tell somebody to stop doing something they haven't been doing, logically.
it doesn't give her name, does it? I'm looking here. I don't see a name.
Her
But we
name
get
was Haslaponi. Samson's mother's name was Haslaponi, and she was from the tribe of Judah. We traced this out. It's in Rev Katz's work.
Okay, then that's a really good question. Why would Judah? Why would Judah be? Yeah, why would he fear Judah? That's his wife's family. That's a good question.
Mother's tribe, or mother's affiliation.
But Samson's not Jewish. Is that okay? I thought he was. I thought he was Jewish or an Israelite. You know,
there's an argument either way that said he was, but look at his father's name, Manoah, from Noah.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Okay, and then it says that this certain man of Zorah, of the family of the Danites. Well, Zorah, that name, that city name, Zorah, is exactly the same connotation, word, family of words that mean Soras. You know what Soras is?
Biblical leprosy.
Right. So here we have a man living in a town called Zorah, leprosy or skin disease. His name is Manoah, from Noah. And his wife is told, Manoah's wife is told, don't drink wine and don't eat any unclean food or anything contaminated.
Well, that's because he was a Noahite, and whatever they're called, a Noahide, Nazarite.
You mean he was from Nazareth?
No, a Nazarite, a Nazarite, someone who refrains from drinking wine,
Right.
and cutting his hair.
He can't, that's right.
Hey, Brookie Lee, you have sound?
Yeah, I think so.
What was your response earlier?
I was just asking you about if you had seen a preview to the movie and if it sounded like it matched the scripture that you read.
Well, he didn't have blonde hair and blue eyes, so for Hollywood, I think that's a start.
Yeah, they never seem to get that kind of stuff right.
I look forward to it. I didn't want to watch the other ones, Noah and Exodus, Gods and Kings, but I wound up having a soft spot, so I'm going to give Samson a try in the theaters with the popcorn and the whole mess.
Why didn't you want to do the Exodus one?
It's not at fault of anybody, but you have expectations when you study the Torah, and Noah's what, 3 chapters maybe. So when I saw the Noah movie, there's a lot of apocryphal stuff, if you will, and I just didn't want to see Hollywood mess it up again. I liked The Prince of Egypt, but even that had its flaws. I didn't want to be disappointed, honestly, is what it was. And our friend Reuven, old friend, played like he had a clip. He had like the first 15 minutes of the actual movie, and he put it on here on the Afterglow when we were off the air, and I had to go see it after that. And I saw it, and there's some silliness to it, but I thought it was a really neat. I did cry at the end of it both times, so yeah, it was a good flick,
Yeah. Well, this is a discussion with any movie or book that's out there. It's always easier if you watch the movie first, and then you're not disappointed when you read the book and you get the truth, because you didn't have expectations.
Right?
The movie. Yeah. I mean, that's made it easier for our kids watching, some of the mainstream movies, and then they get into the books and there's so much more information and it's even more colorful, and it gives them a passion for reading, which is important. And I hope that they continue to carry that into when they, really get into Torah stuff, because they're kids right now, but someday I hope that passion for learning and for reading and for finding out truth, and that truth is more in a book form than an entertainment form. I hope that catches on.
I'm going to aim in that. I hope to inspire mine as well. What little I can do for my son and the trouble that kid is in and goes through and all the junk. He does remember that little candle in the window. He remembers that when I try to teach him, and it always comes back. Son, you don't want to do this, this, and this. Torah says this, and this. Dad, you're a fat old man. I'm not going to listen to you. I'm 16. I've been told everything I need to know. And then he goes in the world and realizes what the world is. He goes back and says, wow, Dad, you were right. I'm like, yeah, it sucks, son. Told you. I mean, I wanted to do I told you so dance in front of him, but I didn't. It's. Anyway, I digress. I hope to, yeah. I you know, worry that myself. Being Noah Hyde Halfgear, whatever, it's, you know, I can do is only so much with my girls as I can do. And there's no institution, there's no churches, there's no billboards, there's no buildings where people go to, there's no study. You know, we're a fringe element of the world. If anything, I hope that I can make it potent enough that it lasts later when it matters. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the part that I'm most concerned with, is how do you teach the next generation? Because if we can't perpetuate this, then everything we've learned, was it worth anything?
Or is there any practical use to it, right?
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Or did we upset everybody in our lives because we're going against the grain of society? And children don't, you know, obviously they, if they're not doing it, they didn't value that sacrifice, and then it's lost. And I mean, I know we're helping, I'm not going to say this right, Gula, just because of Torah consciousness and everything. And that means something, but I don't know the scope of that. And if my thoughts are constantly on my children and perpetuating Torah to them and the love of Torah and learning and truth, then that has to mean something, because that has to be coming from Hashem, right?
I think so. I think so. There was a conversation in a Jewish Torah group, or excuse me, a New Testament Torah group, New Testament versus Torah. And he was Christian and said his piece. And some dude in there who's been given the title rabbi, you'll never be able to understand it because you're a Christian, so I bother even asking. And I just want to drop kick the mother. It's like, you know, you have an opportunity here to be a light. You have the opportunity to perpetuate the Torah, the prophets. And that's what the question the man was asking about the prophets. And I thought, you know, just because the guy's Christian doesn't mean that God's light can't shine on him. That he, you know, that he can't be enlightened. He might stay a Christian. The man's probably been a Christian 50 years. He's an older gentleman. You're not going to change his mind, but you could enlighten him, and maybe he can remember that. And it might bring him a tool or a reminder during the day that might move him to do something great for somebody or for the world. You know, I feel we should be open about that sort of thing. And it really breaks my heart that there's a philosophy of no, you'll never get it.
No, I agree with you. And I see that recently. And I understand that they were trying to get the the rap. Oh, I can't think of it right now. The rapping, what is that called?
Tefillin?
No.
The clipper.
The clippa, thank you. I know they were trying to get the clippa away from the Kohanim, and I understand that, but the way that it was happening was like, no, we want the Messianics out. And it's like, wait a second. I know they're wrong, but we don't have to be so rough with them. And I mean, none of us liked it when we first approached and we were rejected, or we were made to feel dumb, or, you know, not belong. And for some of us, that's from Jews, but I mean, to get it from Gerim, really? That's just really frustrating, because they're looking for truth, obviously, or they wouldn't be there.
How many in here were Christian? How many good mothers and good fathers and good family tried to raise us in a good Christian environment? And how much of that has passed over in our, if you will, conversion? I think everybody in here is pretty much a convert. We're not Jewish, but except for maybe John. But, you know, how many in here were Christian? You know, I understand. I know where he's coming from. I know that there needs to be somebody who draws the line. I get that. But to blow this gentleman off in such a coarse manner, it really bothered me. So yeah, you know, it's it's so accessible. I think that might scare some people as to how accessible Torah is and how accessible we can make it in our Goyish, non-Jewish lives. It's for Israel, but Israel's for us. And that sounds selfish, I know, but what are they good for without us? What's their purpose? I mean, you can get Jewy all you want, but if you're not turning people back to God, what good are you? I don't know. Rabbi Katz was asking about, he was talking about the Ger Yeshiva, and I wrote him in his class. I was like, wow, you just crystallized everything I need to know about what you're trying to get at with this yeshiva he's building. And he's like, put it in a video. I'm like, okay. So I took what I thought was relevant, put it in a video, and he's like, that's the big difference is and he didn't mean it wrong. No, this is in the actual promo. He didn't mean it wrongly, but he's like, in Noahide circles where they teach Noahides, there's no healing, there's no improving, there's no elevation or evolution. But when you get with this Ger crowd, who he didn't call him Ger, but when you get with this crowd of people, there's a certain kind of Noahide that loves to dig in and dig deeper and bring out that which is useful and good, that sweet fruit, that nourishment. You might have to go through some thorns because that's what the world is, but it's there. I really think that we should teach it. It's far more accessible than, no, we're not Jews. We're not going to get everything we're not supposed to. That's fine. But really, to cut people off, I mean, we got kids here. What's what we're talking about? And that's the full circle I'm getting to is, we have children. We have to make this accessible. The 7 laws is not what kept me around. Trust me. Not murdering people isn't what keeps me coming back to Torah. It's Torah. What keeps me coming back to God? It's Torah. It's not law.
There you go. You rephrased it there. You said what keeps me coming back to Torah. It's what keeps me coming back, or Hashem keeps me coming back to Torah. Like, that was it for me, because when I first was trying to find truth, it was like, he didn't let me out of Torah until I figured out, the burning question of where do I fit in. And once I got there, then I was not that I don't read it, but like I was constantly consuming Torah because I needed to get the concept of Ihad. But it was because I loved Hashem. I was looking to Hashem, and he was saying, keep reading the Torah, keep reading the Torah. At least for me. And when you rephrased it, it was like, oh, that's cool, because it seems like we usually have very similar stories as we interact with each other.
Yeah, I'm sold. I'm Talmud friendly, I guess. I don't understand it as much as others. I don't know if it's my cup of tea, but I in many ways, I don't need to look any, and God has shown me this. I don't need to look any farther than Torah. And yet here we are reading Samson out of Judges.
Well, you were all right reading Samson. I watched Gare Gravy's videos today, and it was very interesting because I think that's the piece I've been missing, is that I can't just hear the rabbinics. I need to understand the why behind it. And, maybe that's that inquisitive Noahide type personality. I can't just accept, don't mix meat and milk. I guess part of one of the nations that said, no, I won't accept it blindly. I need to understand it. And, I'm more likely, as I start to understand things, be like, okay, this is meant for the whole world, and it is for a certain reason. And you need to understand the reasons and why you're not mixing, and why, you take the shoe off, and, the 3D and 4D and all that stuff. And it's really hard to follow sometimes, but knowing that there's a reason, like a true reason for it, and it's not just, I don't know, men making more rules, because that's what I feel like we've all walked away from. But it's Hashem saying, okay, this is the way it is. This is the way the world works. And then the rabbi's going, okay, how can we protect all these idiots and make sure that they don't mess this up? And the more that you look into it and you start to understand the reasons why, then you go, okay, so the rabbis do this and this to protect Hashem, essentially. I don't know why I started that. Sorry, James.
No, that's okay. I was going to ask you if you read the joke that I posted. It's got to go. I need to put it in the Google Plus side. It's the Nexus joke of the week. Here it is. Moses is up on Mount Sinai. The Almighty is conveying the text of the Torah to him. They come to, do not cook a kid in its mother's milk. And Moses looks up and says, by this you assume, I assume you mean that we should not eat meat and milk dishes at the same time. No, replies the Almighty. I simply said, do not cook a kid in its mother's milk. Okay, says Moses. So you mean that we should have separate dishes for meat and milk? No, says the Master of the Universe. I simply said, do not cook a kid in its mother's milk. Fine, says Moses. So you mean we should have to wait 6 hours after meat before we can eat milk? All right, Moses, says the Holy One. Have it your way. Okay, I found it funny. I found it great.
I thought it was cute, yeah.
I laughed the first time I saw it. Yeah, it was fun.
Fine, Moses, whatever. Of course, we all know that's not how it went.
I think I got a little bit of I got a joke for you today. Can I one-up you in the jokes today, James?
I dare you. I dare you to one-up me with a joke.
And how do I sound on the mic? And do I sound better than what I was before?
You sound like a horse, but that's okay. We'll patronize you. I'm kidding. You sound fine.
Really. How good am I coming through? Am I coming in through clear?
Yeah, it's much better than it was earlier.
All right. So there's a guy. He wants to know. He takes this kid. This guy has a son. He has a son, right? And it's about the kid's about. He's about 10, 11, 12, whatever, right before his bar mitzvah. And he takes him to the psychiatrist and he says, can you tell me what my son's going to be when he grows up? All right, says the psychiatrist. So he puts 3 objects down on the table. He puts some coins, a Bible, and a bottle of alcohol, a bottle of whiskey, right? And he says, let's see what the kid will do. So the kid goes. He's looking at the coins. He's looking at them. Okay, and he puts them down. He goes to the Bible. He's flipping through the pages, reading it. Starts davening. Okay, puts it back down, and then he goes down to the bottle of whiskey, pours himself a l'chaim, says l'chaim. Goes back to reading the Bible a little bit, playing with the coins a little bit. And, okay. So the father goes, okay, what was that supposed to show us? Well, the psychiatrist goes, well, it was going to tell us what he was going to be, a businessman, a student in a yeshiva, or an alcoholic. And the father goes, well, he was doing all 3. What does that mean? Well, the psychiatrist goes, he's probably going to grow up to be a rabbi.
I knew that was the punchline. That's awesome.
That is awesome.
That just might be better. All right, you might have one-up me there. Okay.
It is what it is. How's your week going today, James? How's everything going?
Characteristically smooth. Very encouraging.
Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. So we're gonna get into this week's Torah study. I've been studying all week, doing my thing for this week's Torah portion, and you dropped the Samson on me. You didn't drop it. You ripped it apart like a jawbone of an ass and smashed me over the head with it.
The Torah portion was left like the lion in Judges. Okay, let me get my Chumash shot. Let's do this.
So in this week's Torah portion, Hashem tells us, in the week's Torah portion is Truma, and he tells us, God relates to us that we shall build him a sanctuary. The question is, how can it be that we can confine God that's unlimited to one space, to one particular location that the the Holy of Holies in the Mishkan.
I was thinking when I looked over, I didn't give a good hard study as much as I did. It comes after the golden calf. So I don't know if God needs a box, but perhaps man's propensity to look to a fine point. Okay, my thing, and tell me if I'm wrong here, my thing was that man needed the Mishkan so that he may not build for himself another idol. Even when God's presence was there, they needed something. They felt they needed something. When Moses left, they need, where's Moses? Moses hasn't come down. Let's build something. That's something for our Moses. So perhaps God wanted a sanctuary so that man would have a focus. What do you think?
It's a good. I mean, it's an interesting answer. I actually don't actually have the answer to it. I mean, that was a question I had, but I mean, we can learn a little bit if you want. I mean, it's up to everyone who wants me. And I mean, how far we can go. I mean, we could talk about something else. I actually found it kind of similar, to be honest with you. Sort of, if you want to connect the two between Israel and Noah is that God commands Noah to build himself a ark and find sanctuary in it and salvation to be saved from the upcoming destruction. So I mean that you can, I mean in a way we can connect the two. That it's sort of a similar process of what's happening. I don't know if anyone has any opinions.
In this week's Parsha, there is, in the commentary, it says that the wooden box that was placed inside the Ark of the Covenant, was an allusion to the Ark of Noah. And we use a lot of English terms when we're talking about this Parsha, but the ark itself is called Aron, which alludes to light. And Aaron is the high priest. His name actually connotes the one who brings light. This wooden box was actually sandwiched between, there was a gold box set inside the wooden box, and then there was a gold box outside that wooden box. And if you read the measurements and weigh out the gold, this was, James, you have the book World of the Gear, page, I think, 142. The thing weighed about 6,000 pounds. There was really no way 4 men could actually carry that. It actually elevated itself. I'm sure you know this, John. The illusion was that the 4 men were actually carrying it, the 4 Levites. That was not the case. If you read carefully and later in the Parsha, it says that the ark itself crossed over and the men went with it.
It's actually very fascinating that you actually say that, because the ark is actually counted as a person. It was 500,000 and 99.99, and Hashem made it 600,000, and that's how they round up the number of 6,000 men. Some people have the custom that you can count the Torah as a person, if in a minyan, if you need it. Some people don't. Some people do. That's actually a hot point of contention. Actually, that's a big thing. I'm surprised the rabbi is not around to let us know a little bit about that. But also, what's fascinating, it's funny that you bring that up, Ross, that the ark wasn't carried by the people. That's true. You're right. It carried itself. Matter of fact, it carried the people. But also, I don't know if anyone actually knew this either, but the testimony, tablets of testimony, was actually larger than the ark's dimensions. So if you actually measure out the ark's dimensions, I think it comes out to be like 10 amos or something like that. I don't know. I don't remember off the top of my head. But the tablets of testimony was like 12 amos.
Well, not only that, the ark itself took up no physical space. Once it was inside the Holy of Holies, they measured from one wall to one side of the ark, and it was, I believe, 10 cubits. And then they measured from the other side of the ark to the other wall, and that was 10 cubits. The Holy of Holies is only 20 cubits wide. So the ark itself took up no physical space.
Well, also that's correct, but also the tablets of testimony that went inside the ark had larger dimensions than the box.
Also true.
So the ark itself is a miracle. There's a lecture, I haven't watched all of it, that it's on down there in Houston, down your neck of the woods, Ross. It's called The Ark. I think the title was The Ark Bears the Ark Bearers. That, the ark carries them as much as they carry the ark. But the word carries the Levite as much as the Levite carries the ark.
One thing that kind of stood out in the Parsha for me, teruma means to elevate or to lift up. And in the Parsha,
You're extremely low, Ross.
I got you cranked.
That better? That better? That better. Tell me when I get it.
There you go.
You have it there, whatever that was.
Okay. Early on, it said that they would take a portion from each man whose heart my portion from every man whose heart motivates him. You shall take my portion. And then it goes on to mention the gold, the silver, the copper, so on and so forth. They shall make a sanctuary for me, so that I may dwell among them. And connecting that, God is always concerned about a person's heart. He wants to know where your heart is. And I'm reading here that says if your heart is motivated to contribute, that person who has that kind of heart is the kind of person whose heart that Hashem can dwell among. He's not actually living in the Ark of the Covenant or the tabernacle itself, but in the hearts of the men who desire to give. After all, that was the whole purpose of creation anyway, was so that Hashem could give. He doesn't need anything.
I actually did a wonderful video today, early in the day, about the meaning of that. That this is the only commandment where God actually says that, Ross, that you shall take among that. If they, however it's worded, willingly, or how you had the correct phrase, it's escaping me. And what does that exactly mean? and it came to the conclusion that you're actually that you yourself, this concept of you being you're sort of your own temple, your body's its own temple, because it relates that the whole building of the Mishkan, the whole tabernacle and everything, all of it all together actually is like that of a person. That you had the skin and the water, and you had the all the different what is it, 15 different commodities that they had to donate to for the building relates to like 15 different parts of a person. And I actually found that interesting that this is what that's all accumulating to, about how you sanctify yourself, that if you sanctify yourself and you commit to the Lord, and what you were saying, do the things that you were saying to do, that you become elevated, you become sanctified as that of a Mishkan. You yourself is a sanctified, holy being at that point.
Sure. That is kind of what it's trying to connote, is that you yourself are that temple, like you're trying to point out. You yourself are the high priest. One who studies Torah is like the high priest. You becoming that temple, if you will, or the house of prayer. James, you've heard me say this before. When you get to the point to where you are praying for all nations, a house of prayer for all nations, not being exclusive, hateful, demeaning, but trying to see the good in everyone. Of course, there's just going to be those people that, but when you begin to get to the point to where you want to be that inclusive and bring everyone in so that it really is a house of prayer for all nations, then there is harmony, there is peace. No more bloodshed, no more fighting, no more Lashon Hara. I'll shut up there.
You have to. Go ahead.
No, say what you're going to say, man. You go.
I was just going to wax a bit of how your question is really a really good question, John Yohanan. Your earlier it was why the need for a Mishkan, and I looked one parsha back, and we got he's up there, and while he's up here, learning at the Mishkan, we're getting hedonistic behavior below. Why a Mishkan? And what is it teaching us? Why would God make this thing a macrocosm of a human being? You've got where all the meat goes and burns, which is where the altar, is where your stomach would go. There's the brain, which is the first tent, the Holy of Holies, which would be kind of above the head, if you will. Why would he, why would he make this? What, and there's a dangerous thing in Hinduism where that man is God, that man is God, that man is God. All of us be God's boy, all of us, Celtic thing. I know what they're saying, and I think I know what they meant, but I think that it's as far as culturally, collectively goes, people, I think, have a tendency to run with that, and so we're almost scared. I think especially in our Christian teachings, maybe we are frightened of the idea that the very temple that we're reading about, this grandiose, magnificent construction of great masons, is actually talking about a construction of the Almighty, that it's us. And I think there's a divide there. I don't like going there personally. I know it's there. I know what it's teaching me, and I get it. I make the best with it, but I haven't been as personally convinced, I think, as others might have been, as to just how I'm convinced, but I haven't, Some things you just kind of want to let the scientists, you don't want to know every nook and cranny. You don't want to look at their boards and boards and boards of equations. You'd like, things in one syllable explained in 2 minutes or less as to how this contraption works. That's kind of how I am with this. It's
True,
weird.
but
Go ahead.
You actually had the right answer, though, James. Well, it could be a right answer, whether we choose to accept it or not. But Shafono, if I'm pronouncing his name right, one of the greatest sages of all Jewish, time, all history, Roman convert, he said it best that his opinion was that God gives us the cure before he lets us before the Torah. The reason why this is before the golden calf, the sin of the golden calf, because God gave us the cure before the ailment. So you were actually right on the nose. But I do have here in front of me some a book with a bunch of different commentary of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. We can learn about something if you want me to read something real quick. I have a couple of different
hey, the Rebbe
topics.
The Rebbe is always welcome in the Nexus, I think. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
What was your question?
I said he's always welcome here. The Rebbe we can always talk about the Rebbe. He's our hero. He is the hero of the Noahide of the 20th century.
So I have here someone's
why we can do this now. Go ahead. I'll shut up now.
Someone's beeping me. I hate the Google app. I really do. So we can learn about why confine God to one space. We can learn about the dimensions of the inner dimensions of the sacrificial system. We can learn about one level above affinity. The difference between the sanctuary in the desert and the holy temple. Why the order of Shemot is the way it is.
I'll take number one.
Number one?
Number one.
All right. Let's go for it. Before anyone has anything to offer, it's just 3 paragraphs, but it's going to take me about 3 minutes to read.
That's okay. We have 45 left on the live portion, so go for it.
All right. So why confine God to...
Read.
All right. Yeah. No, if anyone got anything to say, go ahead. Whatever. If someone got something to say it.
I'll give you something just briefly. What we were just reading about the contribution of gold, silver, copper, and so forth. Conversely, what if it had happened that the individual said, "This is my gold, my silver, my copper, my scarlet wool," instead of, "No, I'm giving this to Hashem. It's not mine anyway." And in one sense, to covet these things, to covet the gold, the silver, the copper, whatever, is potentially akin to worshiping creation rather than the Creator. I'm done.
Absolutely. I was spot on, actually. Yeah. All right, here we go. James, This is for you. This is okay. Why confine God to a single location? In this week's Torah Parsha of Truma, relates to God's commandment to take gold and silver and other articles. There's a difference of opinion whether it's 13 or 15, and to use these items to construct a sanctuary for God together with the command, "And they shall make me a sanctuary." God promises that to us, that He will dwell within it. God cannot be limited to a physical location. Nonetheless, He promises to reside in a sanctuary to be built within the material world, a building with specific sizes and location. This applies not only to the Beis HaMikdash, that's the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, which remained in the same space from time of its construction, but also the sanctuary which traveled the Jews with the Jewish people in the journeys through the desert. Although the sanctuary was moved from place to place, however, it is erected there when it stood, a divine presence dwelled and rested within it. This seems difficult to understand. God is not bound by limitations of space. Existence is everywhere. He exists everywhere. As it is written, I fill the heavens and the earth. Why then did God command that a specific location be established for his presence to dwell? While it is true that God is everywhere, it is possible but that his existence will not be felt within the world. For godliness can be felt only through divine service. This service needs not to be confined to a specific place or location. However, when a person serves the Lord, he draws down the Lord's influences. Similarly, the divine service performed in the sanctuary in the holy temple could be performed in other places as well, drawing down God's presence everywhere. Why was it necessary that his service be performed only in the sanctuary in the holy temple? One other service, indeed, only of the fundamentals of the service performed in the sanctuary in the holy temple and worship. Well, hold on, that didn't make sense. There were two dimensions of this service. One was physical activities involving animal sacrifices on an altar, and the second part was spiritual, the counterpart of these activities, which today is accomplished through prayer. So so the way we sacrifice idols on an altar is through prayer. Prayers were instituted as a replacement. Both of these dimensions are connected with the sanctuary of the holy temple. Sacrifice could only be offered in that spot. As the Mishnah states, at the time of the sanctuary was erected, offering sacrifices as a private altars became forbidden. So there was actually a custom that you could build your own altars and sacrifice in a private place, but that became forbidden. Similarly, after the construction of the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, it became forbidden to offer sacrifices in other spots as well. Similarly, the concept applies to prayer as well. The counterpart is that we may pray in a place with the exception of an open valley, for it is hard to concentrate such an open space. It is hard to concentrate in an open space. Nonetheless, however, we pray where we will always face the holy temple, the gate of heaven. For it is through the holy temple that our prayers ascend to heaven. As it is written in the holy word, they shall pray to you towards their land. In the diaspora we shall face Israel. In Israel we shall face Jerusalem, and in Jerusalem we shall face the holy temple. This raises a question. As service within the heart, spiritual activity, why should it be confined to a place? Begging the question, right? It can be explained that the actual offers of the sacrifice had to be associated with that place, where it involved placing an animal on a literal altar, and there was conditions for that service. Even spiritual influences that drew down from the heavens and the spiritual offerings was then associated with the material realm, as it says in the verse, and the fires emerged from before God and consumed the burnt offering. Since even the spiritual influence arouses the sacrifices and associations with the material world, it is easy to accept the premise that the sacrifice offerings must be limited to that one place. Just one more page. It has been expressed in other places, thus in the areas where it was not forbidden, sacrifices on private altars, the position. Okay, so he goes into talking about the private. With regards to prayer, I'll skip that a little bit. The spiritual dimension of the sacrifices, limitations of the place, is more difficult to understand. Prayer is an entirely spiritual process. It is a part of one person. The individual praying is not involved in any sort of material worldly doings. His objective is to bring him closer to God, to draw his power, to draw God's powers and senses closer to himself by devoting himself to his prayers and supplication. The fundamental element of prayer is to come from the fundamental element of one's prayer should come from within the heart. A person's spiritual efforts is indeed true once he verbalizes the words of his prayers, and then this becomes associated with his heart, for it says, when one says out loud the prayers. Praying also has an effect within the material world, for through our prayers we arouses God's motivation and influences to answer those who need healing from sickness, to those who need prosperity, and et cetera, et cetera. Nonetheless, this does not detract from the spiritual dimension of prayer, because when within our physical eyes we cannot see the results of prayer, regardless of the sacrifices. However, this is possible only through the heavenly fire of the altar. That's pretty much it. So he pretty much is. I don't know. This is pretty deep stuff. I don't know if anyone. I don't know if I kind of. I don't even know if I really understood this. But, I mean, pretty much. I always found that verse in the Bible pretty much very powerful. That God's fire comes from heaven. It says that when we put sacrifice on the altar, that the fires of heaven consumed it. It didn't like the sacrifice didn't like we didn't put it like we joke around. It's like a big barbecue, right? And we ate it, and we but it says it's consumed from the fires of heaven. And so there's a when we pray, there's a two-part process. It's not just our physical there's a physical action, but there's a spiritual element that God is connecting with us. The fire, I don't know what fire represents, but I'm guessing the passion of serving the Lord, and then God will give us the other half of what we need to do. If we make our own, if we put one step forward, then God will put that other foot forward and help us along our mission.
Amen.
Absolutely. God descends in the flame on Sinai, as we read in Samson in Judges tonight, when Manoah and his wife made an offering, the presence of the Lord descended upon it. Yeah, absolutely. We saw that in tonight's
Oh yeah, that's right. That was in the book reading.
Yeah. When so many religions and create barriers between man and God, and they all do this, every last one of them in some form or fashion does it. And what does Torah teach us? The opposite. I like my Rabbi Dov when he was explaining it to us years ago. He would say, "This is good. That's Hashem. That's how close. That's as close as I can describe Hashem and his relation to you, because God breathes the life, the soul into Adam. So he's that close. He's that intimate with you. And where so many all religion puts a barrier of some sort, whether it's a soap opera of gods or idols, or the soap opera of one, or whatever, or religion and ritual. In the end, that's how close God is with you, and that's what I love about Judaism. That's where Judaism stands out and alone. The closest thing you get to is maybe Buddhism, maybe Taoism, maybe. Nothing else like it. Nothing solidifies that point more. And for those of us who've born in idolatry and make our way out of it, it's still there's still, to me, and I haven't been able to just move to Israel and be done with it like I would like I could dream. So I kind of still have some of that lingers. I think that it lingers in society and amongst all of us really, especially, is that old world that you're separated from God, that you're not worthy of of God, or that when you feel low in yourself and you've screwed up, when you screwed up over and over and you feel unworthy, you don't want to talk to God. Why would I bring this to you? I just screwed up. I just kicked that puppy or whatever. I don't kick puppies. I'm not saying anybody kicks puppies, but I just did a horrible thing. And I can't bring this to God. How can I bring this to God? You know, he's expecting my first fruits. He's expecting everything great. How can I bring this to, and that's what Jewish prayer teaches you. That's why you have to say it out loud, is you have to, if you're going to talk to God out loud and actually use language, even in your mother tongue, like a Noahide can, as you would speak to your father, you're going to have to be honest. The more honest you give, and your dad will know when you've divulged. He's that close, even at a time when you think you're separate and your actions have shown you just how separate you are. Don't forget that that he was painting. That was a symbolism. I know it's symbolism. We don't have a natural representation of God in Judaism, but the notion, the idea that, man's reaching out and God reaches back. Very Jewish, and very uniquely Jewish. There's my 2 cents.
It says that we're like a letter chet. The letter chet. If you ever look at a letter chet, it looks kind of like a hay, except for the chet has like sort of a space between the roof and the side. Is the leg. There's a little gap. So there's
you're talking about the chet. The chet. I'm being funny.
Or if you're Ashkenazim, they say ches with a ches. They don't say chet. I don't know. It depends on how you want to pronounce it, right? A chet, whatever the case may be. Whatever the case may be. Thank you, James. That's funny, actually. Yeah. So when it comes to the chet, when it comes to Chad, Chad, let's go totally tubular. Now, now you got me. Okay. That's okay. Seriously. So the letter het represents.
I just want to interrupt and say that I'm not going to interrupt. I just want to say I'm not going to interrupt you anymore. Go ahead.
L'chaim. You can only interrupt me for l'chaim, and that's the only explanation. That's the only exception. All right. So the top represents our thoughts. So let's break this down. We have something called thoughts, speech, and action. That's what we're made up of, right? Thoughts, speech, and action. So the thoughts and the speech are connected. Why? Because I can think something, and I can say something. They're the same thing. I can think, and then just words in my mind, and I can say something without actually being words in my mind. Like you can say something without thinking it, right? Sometimes we do things and we don't really mean it, or I say something I don't really mean it. And some people know that more than others. Whatever, right? So they're the same thing. That's why they're connected. But the action, the left leg of the letter is disconnected. Why? Because actions are disconnected from your speech and action. You can say something and then you can think something without actually doing it. So what it comes in, here's the part so this is where it all comes down to, is that when you say something and when you think something, you have to do it. It goes back to what you're saying, James. It's all about the intent. And it goes back to the Torah portion. It says, you shall make me a sanctuary. You shall. No any sort of interior motive, like what Ross was saying. He said, you can't do it for personal reasons because you want to. It's my goal. No, you do it because you want to build for me a sanctuary. So these actions are separate from your thoughts and feelings. You are thought different. That's why it's all beautiful. Okay. Amen. L'chaim.
Amen. Brookie Lee, what you thinking about?
Sorry,
Brooklyn?
James. I've been back and forth with kids and stuff.
No problem.
That's all good. How's the Kinderlach?
The what? Kindle?
Kinderlach. That's Yiddish for children.
Kindle. Cool. They're good. They're good. They're I'm very blessed.
Mind your mama.
Oh yeah, you didn't have any little ones around you, huh?
Yeah, I had to boot one earlier who wants to come in and turn pages. She's made it a habit. Sometimes I'll leave my chumash out. My chumashes. I'll leave my chumashim out, and she'll come in and she'll put on my gear cap or my fedora or whatever that I'm wearing right now, and she'll put it on sideways, and she'll start flipping through books, and then she points with two fingers like she's making, like she's like she means it. She looks in the page and then she mumbles, and then she'll turn the page and do the same thing every time. Yeah, good influence on my little girl.
That's awesome.
Just turned 3.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
She wants to be like Daddy.
I figure 1 out of 3 ain't bad. I'm kidding. My girl Madeline, ready to light the candles because I played so much of the Shalom Sesame Shabbat Shalom episode. She gets a kid's view of what it's about. So, when it's time to light candles, actually, she helps Daddy now. And it all started with her helping with the menorah candles every year. Yes, we have a bush in our house. My wife loves tradition. But we had that. And so whenever it's, and of course, over 8 days, it became a thing every night. Oh, we get to go light candles, big thing, big excitement for the kids, right? And then when that's done on Friday night, you ready to light candles? Okay, here we go. And she knows it's Shabbat candles, so there are 2, and they're tea lights. We're not Jewish, but and then we'll sing the song, we'll hum it, and actually I'll hum, she'll hum along a little bit, but Daddy sings, Shabbat Shalom, hey, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shabbat, Shabbat Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Anyway, we do all that, yeah. And she helps Daddy light the candles, and it all started from the activity of lighting the menorah, the Hanukkah menorah.
Purim is coming up. Anyone got any plans for Purim?
I don't know anything about it. That's a perfect. I saw that we still had a week or 2 to think about it. So I had a few people PM me about because I was at a loss. I was really at a loss this week as to what to, we could do Parsha, but what do we bounce off of?
I think, the custom for Purim is that we read the Megillah of Ruth. So we should read Ruth, like the way you read
Esther.
Samson.
Esther.
Oh, yeah, Esther. I'm sorry, Esther.
Let's read Esther next week. What do you say? I don't know if it's early. I know we're early. We're not on time or anything, but we're not Jewish.
Yeah, I think we can wait for the next one after that.
Okay.
I think it's the 28th. What's next week? What's next week?
Getting my calendar here on my Chinese calendar here on the wall. Today is the 15th. We'll be doing on the first. If we were to wait a week, it would be on the 1st. It's the 22nd and then the 1st are the next 2 nexuses. So 22nd of February, 1st of March.
Oh, March 1st would be the next one after that. Okay, so let's do next week. Let's do Esther then.
Good. First book I ever read because it was short and I had to read a book for class and I didn't want to read a lot and I went to the Bible and I'll read Esther. And they let me do it too. I don't know much about Purim. Let's do it. Let's learn.
We haven't done Purim yet. We've done just the major feast days.
Well, you went to the synagogue on Rosh Hashanah, didn't you?
No, on Yom Teruah.
Okay.
Oh, it's not the same.
You took the family.
Yes. Is that the same? That's the same. right?
Most temples have the custom. I mean, usually that what they'll do is have a party. It's a really big Purim party. It's like a celebration. This year we're having Purim at the circus, so there's a big circus that we're here. We're going to have a circus for the kids. So
Right.
for your little Kindlelock, everyone, James, you have kids. Brooklyn, Lee, and Kevin, you got kids. I would look into finding the closest synagogue, calling them, and seeing what they're doing for Purim, and it's games and fun and all that's good stuff.
Hey, maybe you can answer this question. How come all of those things with the Jews cost so much? Like, it's usually quite a bit per head to join in.
They wouldn't have it any other way. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
For my temple, we're charging $10 per person for the party.
Right.
That's what we're charging.
But that's $60 for me. Like, that's a lot. It might not seem like a lot if you're making a decent amount, but if you're just getting by, $60 is a lot of money.
You have 4 kids?
Yeah, we've got 4 kids. We've got 6, 8, 10, and 12.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And they're all beautiful, well-behaved children. I can confess to that.
Thank you, Ross. Yeah, we took them up to Chicago when cats came. And they did pretty good, I think.
I tell you, I was jealous because I would have wished my kids would have been that well behaved. Oh, they were great.
Thanks.
Oh, you met up once? When did you all meet up?
I went up to Chicago, or we went up to Chicago to when Cats was here in the fall or the end of the summer.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah, so we got to meet quite a few Gers. It was very cool, and of course meet Rabbi Katz in person, which was awesome. I would have loved to have more interaction. Oh, James, what happened?
John and Ross got raptured.
They are gone. That was
Rabbi Cass is a real sweet guy, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. I wish that he could have spent more time talking about some of the things that I think he wanted to, but there was a lot of debating going on while we were there.
And John and Ross has returned from the rapture.
The stupid mobile app sometimes kicks you out of the room.
Good to be back.
If I was you, Brooklyn Lee, I would talk to the rabbi and if they are doing something and what they're and work out a price. They're not unreasonable. I mean, I'm good friends here. I get along with the people here, and we make a lot of we do a lot, and when if people can't pay, they we let them in and we don't bother them about the money and stuff. But that's not the same for a lot of other places. So I would go and see. I would do my best. You know what I mean. Just call it. It doesn't hurt to call. If they tell you no and they demand payment, what can you say? You don't go. But if they say come by and don't worry about it, then you got yourself a great day for the kids.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I'll look into it. I have another question for you because we stayed for the meal on Yom Teruah, but we couldn't pay the rabbi that day. And so we had to send the money with a friend later because he couldn't accept it on Yom Teruah. Is there a similar situation with Purim, or if you were paying, can you pay that day socially? Or not? I guess it's not social really. It's Torah. Is it acceptable on Purim to take money?
Oh yeah. It's not on Shabbos or anything like that. It's during the week.
And it wasn't permissible on Yom Teruah because it was a high holy day?
Right, yeah, probably. Was that on a Shabbos? Sometimes that falls on a Shabbos, no? Always, usually.
I don't remember. It had to have been on, well, I don't remember. It was this last year.
Yeah, only on Shabbos you can, the money issues a thing.
Okay, well, I will try. let's see what's going on around here. And the costumes that people, or kids, I assume, the children wear, is there a certain criteria? I mean, what do you do at Purim?
Well, every
That's
year is different, and every place is different. I mean, like I said, my temple, we're having a circus. So last year we had Purim under the sea. So it was a sea theme, and the year before that was Purim glow in the dark. And so it's a different theme every year. So you don't have to necessarily dress up the kid. It's Halloween, right? It's Halloween for Jews. It's a kosher Halloween party, and so you can bring the kids dresses whatever you want, really.
Bob Wells one day dressed up as a chicken because the folks at his at the Chabad house up there in Chicago. You might have met Bob Wells. He's an old friend of mine. He dressed up one day as a chicken as kind of a joke that there are Jews who wave chickens over their head. So he was the chicken for that Purim. They let him come and he had a blast.
What is? Oh yeah, that what holiday is that? We do that right before Rosh Hashanah, where we take the chicken and swing it over the head. I would love to try to swing Bob over my head.
Yeah. Bob was there, and James Gosnell, I got to see him again. It was great. It was really a good little meeting, and I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, later this year there's going to be a conference coming up. You know about that, James?
I told Russ and Mike I'm in.
It's going to be in Texas, right?
Uh-huh. T for Texas, T for Tennessee. That's right.
Is it in Houston or is it in Austin?
Waco, outside of Waco. West Texas. Well, no. It's how many, 30 miles south of Waco?
Who's over in Waco?
Russell and Mike live close to Waco. They're in West Texas. About a 3.5 hour run from here. And if I'm not mistaken, he may or may not be trying to go back to Anita Jones's again.
Where's Anita Jones?
I'm sorry?
Where's Anita?
She's pretty close to the Waco area.
Central Texas. Yeah. It's a huge state. I mean.
Oh, yeah. Kevin's from Texas. We've camped all over Texas.
It's off of, I know where we had it was off of I-35, and on Saturday night when everything was going, they were in a big old truck and they went west from there.
Okay.
So it's Texas. It's going to take you 30 miles to go anywhere near, 30 minutes to go anywhere anyway.
Yeah.
I'm anxious. The only two things that'll bring me to Texas are God and my son. I keep coming back. I'm never going back to Texas. Yeah, I'm going back to Texas again, and we'll love it every second.
Oh, we love going to Texas. They've got some of the best campgrounds in the country, in my opinion. Just facilities and everything. And the weather's usually nice because you can go camping in the spring. But I'm guessing Katz is probably coming in the fall again?
No.
No? He's coming later this year?
He doesn't.
It's the Vendel Jones.
What?
I was saying this is the Vendel Jones conference we're talking about, right?
I believe so. I mean, I haven't seen any hard dates yet, and I haven't seen an itinerary yet. But I know it's sometime in May. May, June-ish is what they're talking about at this point. That's all you can get is May, June-ish. I'm sure you'll put some hard dates down, but I know he's going to be stopping through Nativ down here in Houston. And then he'll probably go on from there as he did before. And if it all works out, he will probably do as he did before and spend some time over at Anita's house. And he'll probably spend some time with Mike and Russell in Waco.
We'll get John down here.
Ross?
Baruch Hashem.
Ross, are you over by the Nativ Center?
Yeah.
Nativ, however you say it.
Nativ, I'm only 20 minutes away.
Do you go?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, cool. I didn't know that. I didn't realize you were part of that group.
Sam Houston Town.
Well, I'm retired now by no choice of my own, but I'm retired now, and I do try to get up in there at least twice a week, sometimes 3.
That's awesome. I saw a picture of a larger group, and it had a decent, I don't know, maybe like a dozen kids in one of the pictures, and I don't know if that was just an event or if that's common.
It was a news article. I don't know, mentioned this. I don't know if it's relevant or not. It is, I guess. But there was an entire town, and I don't know if people read about it, in Colombia, down in South America. An entire town converted to Orthodox Judaism, and they did it themselves. Entire town.
Wow.
How do you convert without other Jews?
That's the thing.
Jethro was supposed to did it. That's what Jethro did.
Well, there's a term called Bedievit, which is a form of self-conversion that got to be a point of contention sometime back. You remember Asher Meza, James?
Yeah, he's a friend, a crazy friend of the Nexus. He's crazy like the rest of us, man. Asher's all right, dude. Yeah, I remember Asher. Yeah, there's a go ahead contention.
No, I was just saying, he went through a conversion in that without a rabbi, it wasn't through your normal means, and that particular avenue of conversion is referred to as Bedievit. John, you know anything about that?
I actually don't. I mean, I know about self conversion, but I don't really know exactly the whole ins and outs.
I don't know the details of it either, but I do know that it does exist. We took that avenue, and
it's an alternative to places which don't have any sort of bet-in for how can I put this? There are places that don't have an official. I'll just say it frankly. There are places in the world where it's completely forbidden to convert, and so the only way you got to do it is do it yourself, and that's basically what it comes down to. I think that's why our good friend Rabbi, who's friend of the show, the crazy friend, wasn't he from a particular part of the world where it was forbidden for him to convert, so he had to do it himself?
I don't know the circumstances behind it, and as far as I know, he's always lived in an area. As far as I know, he's always lived in an area where it might have been available to him, but I don't know the real backstory and all the details. I just know that he did it, and I don't know when he did it or if he moved after the fact, but dude's pretty sharp. He really is sharp.
And the conversion's completely acceptable and legal. I mean, there are, I guess, Meshuggah Jews out there, crazy people that will probably reject his conversion. But there's, I mean, our good friend Rabbi, the other good friend Rabbi of the show, the one that isn't so crazy, Rabbi Gostinov. I asked him that once, and he said, "Yeah, that's totally an accept. He's absolutely 100% Jewish. There's no reason to doubt."
You brought it up 2-3 weeks ago when you brought the Yitro. I've been looking for that for a couple of years, dude. Nobody paid up. Nobody. And he did it himself. He might not have been fully Jewish like like I read in the Chumash, but man, I mean, if he's not the quintessential, ger, I mean, in the full context, if you want to talk convert or something for the Noahide to aspire to, as I did years ago, it was Yisro. It was, wow, dude, he did that himself. He took the blade and did it in front of Moses. Boom. Nobody told him he had to do that. He wasn't expected to do that. There's no law that said he had to do that. You read it yourself in one of the Mishnah. God knew he was a convert the moment he walked up and spoke to Moses. What he said, God considered him a convert, and no law. And he circumcised himself anyway. Is he crazy? I mean, that's some hardcore stuff. Circumcision's hardcore for grown men. And he, wow. Okay.
Abraham was the first to do it.
There you go. But he was commanded to, though. God told him to do it. Nobody told Yisro. I'm not trying to put Yisro above Avraham here, but I'm wanting to look at the uniqueness of this great man. He did it. He did it because the Spirit moved him. He felt to do it. And to undergo something like that, he was so zealous. He was so filled with. He just, he wanted to show everybody. He wanted to show the greatest prophet. He wanted to show that's a beautiful thing. And even if there are certain Meshuggah folk out there who don't like it, to put even for a drop of blood, that's I think it's amazing and inspiring and beautiful. And I'm going to shut up now because I had somewhere I know I was onto something, but you know how that the rabbit trail.
Well, I think that would be the inspiration for a lot of people. That anybody that would want to do something like that, it would have to be zealousness. Their heart just leads them that way, and they're going to do whatever is necessary to get where they feel like they need to be. I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm just saying, that their heart really has a sufficient desire in it that it causes them to go that way. Of course, that's the case for a lot of people for a lot of different reasons. But in Jethro's case, we know the story.
I mean, it's similar to the story of Samson. I mean, Samson didn't. No one told Samson that he had to sacrifice himself. And at the end of the reading, we learned that he pulled the pillars on himself and took out the Philistines along with him. It's an act of azora. It's an act of service to the Lord. That's what it's all about. No,
I'm gonna give you something here. All right, we're gonna end if you have the final benediction of the night from Chabad Rosalind.
I did enough for you for the night, so let's end it. You do the ending this night. I'll pass the baton to you tonight.
Okay. Thank you. I don't know how good this is, but has anybody noticed the JC parallels in Samson? Has anybody not seen? I want to put my face on here because I want this to mean something. I might edit it later. Who knows? Has anybody not seen the parallels between Samson and our old buddy JC?
Absolutely.
Over there, right? Okay. We've got a barren woman who bears a child after an angel tells her so. We have a Nazarite, and I know you like to say Nazarene, which doesn't mean anything. They have a church called Church of the Nazarene, I think. We have a Nazarite who makes a self-sacrifice and takes out idolatry with him. Now, there's a movement I've noticed, and I'm a member of a couple of groups who call it decoding Christianity. And although Leonard Nimoy has the official now voiceover of 66 AD, Peter Jennings, who originally narrated it, said that there were Jews who stood behind after the revolt and the expulsion of the Jews out of Rome. Some stayed behind and helped form and helped write things of the Vatican. Come on.
What year?
Huh?
What year? What year?
What
year are you referring to?
98. It was called 66 AD, The Last Revolt. When it was originally broadcast on A&E, it was narrated by the recently fired, okay, maybe it was in the 2000s, by the recently fired Peter Jennings from ABC. He did ABC News for a time. Yeah, I know this media stuff. And he was the one who originally narrated this documentary. When it was released on video, later on DVD, and what you can probably find on the internet now, it's Leonard Nimoy voicing it. The blessed memory, Leonard Nimoy, who voiced it. I noticed that they kind of left that part out. It wasn't there quite like it was worded with Peter Jennings. And when I look at this Christianity thing, I've already gotten rid of the idol, okay? I've already gotten rid of the crucifix. I've already gotten rid of all the wafers and all the wine and all that. And I've gotten rid of all the pageantry. And I've gotten rid of all the creeds. And I look at this thing constructed as if it were designed, and I see encoded Jewish teachings. I know where Rome injected stuff, and I know where there are Jewish teachings seeping out of it. Samson is a perfect example. I think that it's very indeed possible they built the Jesus story on the Samson story, or used it as part to inspire it.
Definitely, they used this part as part of the inspiration. I mean, I partly believe that Nazarite became a Nazarene, and the Philistines became the Pharisees.
Yep.
But there's, yeah.
Well, the part where that's actually a mistranslation of Jesus being from Nazarite, Nazareth is actually a mistranslation. He was actually he was from Bethlehem. He was a Nazarite. He took the Nazarite pledge. I don't know why Christians actually think that it's this. Oh God, they're so silly sometimes.
No, but yeah.
I don't know.
Jesus the Nazarite, not the Jesus from Nazareth. It's Jesus the Nazarene. Come on, guys. Come on.
Oh, I know. It's just I'm saying that's how they managed to twist it all around.
Yep.
And to look at the situation where the high priest once a year is supposed to take 2 goats and draw lots for the goats. One goes for Azazel. It's taken out into the wilderness and pushed over a cliff, and then the other one is offered. The person that takes the goat into the wilderness comes back and washes his clothes and his body, and he becomes clean. Well, there's your direct parallel. Here's JC standing up in front of the crowd, and Pontius Pilate holds 2 individuals up and says, "Which one do you want to set free?" And then immediately after the decision is made, he turns and washes his hands. Yeah, there's a lot of borrowing up here in the NT.
I hope I don't offend anybody in the notes when I called him our superhero. That might not be, it might seem, I don't want to lower the man or, devolve the man in any way when I say that, but I look at him as a superhero, like the Superman, the Adonis, takes a hold of the pillars. Let me have vengeance upon them. I don't care about my life. They need to go. They're sick. It's not nice that people have to die like that. But when you're given the opportunity to live a good life and you choose to do otherwise, it's hard to have sympathy for you. Viva la Samson.
But I still have to put the underlying question there. Why were the Philistines so dead set on shutting this guy up? What in the world was he doing to the Philistines that caused them so much misery? I mean, if it was just a simple marriage, and then burning down some fields, come on, really? He paid the bet. I mean, he made a bet. I'll give you 30 pieces of clothing, whatever. Guy seemed to be pretty straightforward. He wasn't reneging on anything. So what on earth did the Philistines have against him that they wanted to send 1,000 of their men out to try and wear his butt down so they could capture him? What was Samson doing to get him all that he owed? You ever think about it?
Never. Not until, well, I mean, I have now.
Well, I still say it was because he was a judge. It says that he judged Israel, but I think it was judged for Israel. But he was preaching the 7 laws. There's your 7 locks, the 7 braids on his head, the 7 days. It's all about the 7. He was trying to teach them the 7. They didn't want to hear it. They wanted to shut him up. And at the end of the day, when they finally captured him and took him to their temple, what was all the hoopla about? What were they shouting? Our God is greater than his God. Our God delivered him into our hands. Our God is greater. It was all about whose God was greater. If they wanted to kill him, I mean, they had the perfect opportunity when he was as weak as any other man. But they didn't want to kill him. That's why they wanted to mock him.
On that note, we're going to end the hangout. The Nilvah Nexus on Facebook, the Nilvah Nexus on Google+. If you've made it this far into the video, congratulations. James the Idol Smasher at gmail.com. Check out John Gishla's page over there. He's got some really good stuff. He makes videos and stuff and talks some good Torah goodness. So check him out as well. On behalf of Brookie Lee, John, Ross, myself, and everybody, Shabbat Shalom, y'all.